Welcome back to another edition of the Ad Podcast. Today we have Haydn Fleming. Haydn is a marketing leader and currently serves as Chief Marketing Officer at 2POINT, a full-service digital agency specializing in branding, strategy, and social marketing. And he is also a podcast host. He hosts Marketing Minds with Haydn Fleming, a podcast that explores key topics and insights in the marketing world with various industry experts. Hayden, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. I appreciate the invite. Good
Yeah, for
to make your
sure.
acquaintance virtually.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I like to start with everybody with a little bit of an origin story. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up, what'd you study and where'd you go to school, and what got you into the industry, and kind of, any of the salient points between start off and launching your own
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to unpack there. I think it's a super long story, so I'll try to give you the bullet points. Yeah, I grew up and have always lived in East Texas, so southern by birth, northern at heart. I always say I don't talk
Let's
like I'm
go.
from the South, and I
You
and
don't,
I
yeah. You kick that. You kick that accent really
yeah,
well.
but I get all the benefits like no income tax and all that fun stuff. So
Ooh,
we get
rub
all
it
the we
in,
get all the
rub it in.
yeah, we get all the benefits. That said, though, I grew up with like very traditional background, very traditional family, great, ecosystem, great town, great friends, all that kind of fun stuff. When I kind of got into like the early stages of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, what I initially set out to do was that I was going to be a programmer. I was the
Mm,
kid, I was the video game nerd, I was the Star Wars, all that stuff, and tech oriented as a kid. And so that seemed like the typical glowing laptop in a dark room, guy with a black hoodie, like cracking the code in the Matrix. That I wanted to do
hacker.
that. Yeah, that was what I was like fantasizing about. And then as I self-taught myself code in high school, and made some side projects, did some fun stuff, like was very creative about it. I loved that kind of era of coding for me. But then when I got into college, and I started going to traditional programming classes and actually learning from a teacher, I started to discover all the things I didn't enjoy about coding, like
Mm.
bug fixing for 8 hours, and spending 4 hours on a problem that ultimately just put like a one on screen and didn't do anything all that creative. So I found that I kind of fell out of love with it, because I realized that going into that industry, I was going to have to do a lot of that. And it wasn't going to always be making a cool user interface or making some new function that didn't exist on my computer before, or whatever the case was. And so during that, college time, I started, just kind of venturing out career wise. I paid my own way through college. I was having to
Wow,
kind
dude,
of
that's
juggle
awesome.
that. So I was like, all right, career wise, got to focus. And then at the same time, doing this degree thing, not so sure about it. So I was just testing the water with stuff, and I got into sales. Um, Turned out I was pretty good at sales. So I quickly kind of like started making some money there. I started leading teams. At one point, I had a 20-person sales staff that I
What
was
was
responsible
your
for.
what was your first sales job? I'm a big
Yeah.
I like to I feel like every great salesperson has to have a few shitty sales roles in
Oh,
order
I've
to
sold a
be
bunch of
great.
stuff.
Let's go.
I've sold like electrical plans, I've sold cell phone service, I've sold roofing, the door knocking, that kind of fun
Well,
stuff. I did all that. I was very boots on the ground, gritty, just trying different stuff, trying to figure out what I liked, right? And that role where I ended up kind of building a team and getting in, that was in the wireless industry. So it was a lot of, tech products, software contracts, big industry businesses, but what ended up happening was I looked at everything and I was like, I'm making more money doing this than the average college graduate makes doing what I'm getting a degree in. And I don't even really feel good about the degree anymore. And I was like, I'm naturally kind of good at this thing. I should just do this. And I was like, why am I wasting my time in like pursuing a degree I'm probably not going to enjoy using to make less money than I'm making now? So I just said, screw it. And I think it was third year of college. I dropped out and pivoted into just full-time career, which I think has played out for me is the best thing that I could have done at the time. And still at this stage, had no inkling of I'm going to do marketing in my head. What kind of flipped the switch for me was, I mean, I was working like a dog in this role to fulfill it and to just do a good job. I at one point worked 42 days straight with no off days, Saturday, Sunday, everything, and it was like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Always on call, on the phone all day, driving location to location. I mean, it was pretty brutal. And I did this 42-day stint, and then I took 1 day off, and then the next day I went back to work and I worked 30 more days straight. And so in like a 72, 75-day period or something, I had 1 or 2 off days. Um, and I was like, yeah, I just can't do this. Like I barely see my, at the time, girlfriend, now wife. Like I would barely see my girlfriend. We've got a dog, we got a nice place to live, but I don't get to enjoy any of this stuff. I just come home exhausted, go to bed, wake up, and then, kill myself for this job again. So then I got down that rabbit hole of like, well, what else can I do? That like I clearly like I'm good at this, but like I
So let
don't want
me
to do this.
let me ask you a little bit about
Yeah.
that. I think that's really interesting. So I had a little bit of a similar experience in some of my early sales roles. I was a boiler room sales guy
Hmm.
in a room that raised money for a feature film about famous court cases. So we would cold call attorneys all day,
Fun.
and
Good audience.
and this was right after the housing crash of 2008, mind you. So everybody was hiding their money under a mattress versus
Hmm.
investing it in movies. But my our mandatory hours was 6 or 7 in the morning because we had to call New York, and then we would cut loose by like 1 o'clock, and then all my colleagues who are in their 30s and 40s and 50s would leave right when the bell rang, essentially. And then I would stay and just kind of shoot the shit with my sales manager for another hour or two. And then he would leave at 3 o'clock, and then I would keep dialing until Hawaii was still open at 9 p.m. So
Hmm.
I was kind of the same way. I didn't go home until my wife was like, "Hey, dinner's like on the table," basically.
Yeah.
So part of it was I needed to make the money, but part of it was I just felt like I wanted to get in more reps than my competition.
Hmm.
So what was motivating you? Was money motivating you, or were you just trying to get better? Like why were you burning the candle from both ends so hard?
Yeah, I mean, so at that point, I was salaried, so most of my money was fixed, and I mean, I would still get commission for some stuff, and I get bonuses and whatever. But I mean, like, it was measly compared to what I was getting from a salary perspective. I think for me, I mean, um, I think I'm generally like a workaholic type person. Like, I just
Same.
enjoy working. Like, I enjoy the progress of productivity and overcoming challenges, and I like to be, when there's a fire going on, like I want to jump in it. Like I just want to be that person that's like kind of in the weeds. So as soon as I solve a problem over here, I'm turning around to find out what else is on fire so I can go jump there. And so for me, it was like I couldn't go home knowing that like I had team that were still doing things or that were working on things or were trying to solve problems. Like I needed to be there if my team was there. So like I just couldn't do that. And then um, I think the other thing for me is like personal, um, like progress. Like I think that just being, I always view anything that's hard as an opportunity for me to just become better at something. And so if I found it difficult to be driving store to store, if I found it difficult to be doing that like team coaching call at 7 p.m. If like I viewed that as a way that like, well, I'm going to do it anyways, and I will be a better human being because of it. And I'll look back on this later, which I do, and be glad that I did it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Or yeah,
you were treating your job as if you were treating your role in the company as if you were an owner almost,
yeah,
which is a great sign of potential success as an entrepreneur in the future.
yeah. I think it. I've always kind of looked at everything I do that way. Like, what can I do to sort of both self improve, but also improve like this thing that I'm working on, or the space that I'm in, or the team that I'm working with, or whatever it may be. I think there's a lot of um, I find a lot of personal value in that journey of improving the process, me and the things around me. Um, So just to get back to the story a little bit, so I was in this role, basically was just like frying myself, right? I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this for 10 years. Like this isn't the end of the road for me. I've got to figure out like what the next thing is. And through researching and self-discovery and looking online and all that, I basically found that the closest thing to sales, that's not sales, but that would still use most of my, kind of natural skill set that I had at that time was marketing. And I was like, at this point, I didn't know anything about marketing. I had my own gig. I had built my own things on the side. I had a mobile app development company for a while. I did some website consulting where I would help people fix up the front end of their website because I knew how to do HTML and CSS, and so I would do some of this stuff, but I would more consider that like a gig rather than a business. It was something that I did, and I figured out how to do a little bit of work in that space, but not enough that I could make that full time. And so I was like, yeah, I just don't have these raw skills. I've never written an article that goes up on a website and tried to get a website ranked on Google. I've never run an ad campaign that I felt like I had any sort of real strategy behind. I just winged it and put some money in Facebook to see what would happen. So at this point I was like bottom of the ladder on the marketing skill set, and I was what I considered at the time at least pretty good on the sales skill set. So like, all right, I just need to kind of find how far can I carry this and like catch the marketing stuff up. Um, I probably applied to like 500 jobs, and heard back from like 10, and got an interview with one. And sales ability here. I closed the one interview and I got the job.
Let's
So
go.
so I'm 1 for 1 on interviews, 500 for 1 on applications. Um, so I got this foot in the door at a software company called VideoWise. It's on my LinkedIn. You guys can check it out. They're a great company. I actually still work with the CEO now. In our agency life, some of our clients use their software. They're a great company, great product, all that stuff. But yeah, so I got it in, and I was employee number 2 at this company.
Wow.
And basically I was like, look, I will eat dirt. I will do anything you need. Like we will, I will work harder and more hours than anybody. Like I will learn, you will, my wage will be less than the output that I generate for you. Like I will make this work for you. And that's basically what happened. I did. I just grinded as hard as I could, used the opportunity to kind of learn in motion. And I did everything. I mean, I did SEO for them. We did some advertising campaigns. I did video editing. I ran a social calendar across like 5 platforms. It was, just anything that needed doing, I was doing it. The jack of all trades type of person. And I think I did a lot of learning through doing in that role. Like, um, and I basically like eat, sleep, breathe this. Even now, I still do. But like, even if I wasn't working, I was listening to podcasts. I was watching videos on how to do different campaign types. I was paying attention to the current thought leaders at the time to kind of hear what the newest stuff that was coming out. What was the new tools? What were the new tactics? What were the tactics that weren't working anymore? And just staying as abreast of everything as I could. And that was like a very pivotal moment for me. I've never gone back. I've been in marketing since that role. And it's been like, it's a second love for me. Like I found that it's what I should have been doing this whole time. It just took me a little while to figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. So you came in as this kind of generalist, jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife. What were you able to accomplish there? Kind of learning on the fly. Like, what was the end result when you decided to move on?
Yeah. Yeah. So that company was when I joined, I mentioned employee number 2. They were a startup, invested from, some of the founders of Google. There were some executives at Facebook. The CEO of that company is one of the designers that worked on the initial design for the Facebook profile,
Wow.
UX, etc. So he, had retired for a few years and then decided, you know what, I've got this idea itching around the back of my brain. I'm going to start a company. And then he went to his old roster and got a bunch of funding, right? So he was like set up. He was ready to go. And he's a
Yeah,
great
you kind of
pedigree.
you kind of that's like what they call like the golden touch, right? It's like
Yeah.
You have to like beat back money from like getting thrown
Yeah.
at you to start
He's
that
got
thing.
the yeah, he had everything he needed, right? So I came in and like the roster was stacked. We were in really good position to do some cool stuff. So I had that benefit, right? It's hard to be a marketer and have a terrible product or a terrible company or a terrible story or a terrible, we had the benefit of like he had a lot of things in the right direction already. So I came in and I got a lot of like playground, I could kind of do a lot of interesting and different things the way I wanted to. And it was all like when I came on, I think there were like 4 users of the application or something, and they were all free because it was just like, hey, come demo my thing. It was like super, super early
Like
stage, right?
you're like a first 10 user group
Yeah, I
basically
mean, they were
type of
still building the
situation.
user interface, right? Like the buttons weren't
Wow.
even all in there. Yeah. It was like very work in progressy, right? But it was a lot of coordinating, like we're attending events, we're hosting things, we're getting networking out, we're doing a lot of content. It was a lot of that
Now,
coordination.
what part of the world are you in at this point?
I'm still I've been
You're
East Texas
still in
my
East
whole life.
Texas. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I move
Okay,
around,
right
I'll
on.
travel for stuff, but I'm in East Texas. I've been
Okay.
here my whole life.
Now, was the company remote? Were you like
Yes,
had
I was
people
remote.
everywhere? Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's fully remote. And at this point it's a big team. I think they're like 50, 60 people now, but at the time it was like me, and then there was like, oh, there's like one other person, and then hey, we had like now we have a team of 5, and it grew while I was there. But um yeah, but it basically went off zero, which was like we got a handful of people free. First goal for the longest was like, let's just get as many free users as we can, just get people using it, get feedback, improve the product, all of that kind of stuff. So probably honestly, the first like 6 months was going from like having these 4 free users to having like 800, 900 free users. And these are all B2B, this is B2B software, so that we're talking a free user that is a 40 million per year e-commerce business. Like these aren't super easy to land. So like coming from cold like that.
Yeah,
And
even free people are busy
yeah,
and
there's
they only have time for so
skepticism
many
and
tools. Yeah.
yeah, skepticism of what it does and patience for like when things don't work because it's still new or whatever. So there's a lot of like still effort to get these people in the ecosystem. And then we sort of pivoted to doing a lot of like agency partnerships where we would establish like, hey, we're the official video partner for this agency, and now that agency, all their clients get this tool by like just part of their tech stack now. And that was really where we kind of started to unlock paid, because it was like, well, they're just kind of baking it into agency ecosystem fees and stuff like that. The agency pays us, and then we have the tool for this new e-commerce site that we didn't like. In some cases, like we never even spoke to this site. They just get it through the agency, and the agency handles it. And so then we started expanding into that. Um, and I don't remember all the numbers exactly, but we got to like the first quarter million or so in like revenue just purely off of that strategy. And it's all recurring monthly bill type software stuff. And we got to that in that period. And then around there, like where they just started to level up, what I would say from like pre-revenue or pre-profit startup to like we're now a profitable startup, and we're investors are making it. That's kind of where I exited, and then I went on to
Got it.
my next thing. So but that was fun because I got to literally see it from ground zero. There was like nothing, no audience for this, nothing. And I got to kind of be involved and help expand that product as it grew. And it was a great ecosystem to cut my teeth. The founder's an awesome guy. It's okay to fail type of guy. Like let's go out there, let's make mistakes, let's fail, let's experiment and grow. And it's worked for them really well. I mean that was I don't know, like 8 years ago now or something. The company's bigger than it's ever been. They're going super strong, and everything's awesome. So, and I actually got to be involved in the naming of that company. It wasn't always called VideoWise. It was me and the CEO and one other person in a
Let's
group call
go.
for 2 days, and we finally came up with that and landed on the name of the brand. But so yeah, that was a fun experience. And then I transitioned into what I consider kind of like the role that like catalyzed honestly most of my skill that I have now, which was for Drop Off, which is at the time it was like a $50 million per year business. It was also technically still a startup, but it was about a 7 years old startup. And then during that 1 year there, we grew from 56 to 83 million in annual revenue.
Woo.
And and it was the first time I really had something that I could like definitively say I could hang my cap and be like, this is my work. Like I can show you all the data. And it's exponential. It's not, hey, we're performance is up 20% year over year. It's like, hey, we've 4,000% improved this match, these key
You were
metrics year over
scaling.
year. And we could really demonstrate that. And I got to build a marketing team out, and it's a lot of fun. And that I would say is where I went from being kind of the junior figuring it all out to being like, like I run and lead this department, and like, I know what I'm doing and our strategies are working really well. And it kind of expanded into, I don't like to call myself an expert, but like the quote unquote expert territory was
Yeah,
like,
no,
I
I
could have
mean, hey,
something that I
look,
could do it now.
when only 3% of Facebook ads actually generate a return, taking a company from 50 to 80 million is not an accomplishment you shouldn't be proud of. So that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was, yeah. And that was mostly off of the back of organic search marketing, like getting
Wow.
really present in Google. So they went from when I started, this was January of I think 21. I might mix up my years here, but I think it was 21. Um, they were getting 5,000 visitors from Google a month, for organic search. By January of 22, 12 months later, they were getting 100,000 visitors a month from Google. And so, and it's like 12 months of work. And then again, that was where my kind of bookend for that chapter of my life ended. And then now we're here. I joined 2POINT as CMO. 2POINT has been around since 2006. I didn't found the company, but I am now a principal in it, and
Nice.
I help lead the entire marketing side of our business and work with hundreds of clients across the U.S. And some international. And it's a little bit of everything. But I think if it wasn't for those two experiences, that kind of intro to the marketing world, where I got to just do whatever I want and learn and make mistakes. And then the kind of catalyzing of all those skills and coming into a new company with being able to lead and build a team and employ 100% of my own ideas and execute them with proven success. Like that is, I think, what leads to us now being able to do what we do here and provide a lot of value to the companies we work with. And that kind of flywheel of constantly learning never ends. I'm still listening to podcasts while I rock my daughter to sleep. Watching training videos for little skills that I haven't added to my repertoire yet, and like just it's a constantly expanding envelope of things now with AI and all the craziness. It's a really interesting time for business and marketing in particular within there.
For sure. So is 2POINT based in East Texas, or are you guys a distributed team?
We're distributed. So San Diego is where the company was founded, San Diego,
Oh,
California.
let's go. That's where we are.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then just in right after kind of joining, we made an effort to sort of expand our presence more nationally. So we have some key markets: New York, LA, Dallas, Austin, Miami. Just to name a kind of a few big cities that we have presence in. The presence, we don't have physical offices, but we do have kind of like boots on the ground team members in those areas that can talk and meet with clients. We have the clients in those areas. Those are kind of like hot spots for us where we have good pockets of clientele. I would say Dallas is probably our second largest market at this point. So my East Texas area over here. And then LA third, New York maybe is trending towards fourth. But yeah, we're having next year is our 20-year anniversary. So we're not short-lived by any means, and a long history of work we've done.
That's awesome. Now that I think about it, I think my oldest daughter might have starred in a spot for you guys in Temecula. It was
Maybe.
it was like this. So you guys rented out an Airbnb in Temecula, and the owner of the company was there too. And they were all super cool, like kind of like East County conservative, like Texas style guys. And it was a really cool product. It was a supplement that was meant for kids to cure some kind of like major situation.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember what the ailment was, but
Hmm.
it was like kids that were going through like a very specific, kind of like learning disability or health program problem. And this was like a supplement that the founder and his parents, the founder had really good success with like their kids.
Hmm.
I'm almost positive it was you guys, but
That's, I
I'll
mean,
have to look it
totally
up.
possible. Totally possible. We've done so many productions in the kind of like San Diego, SoCal area, basically anything LA and South. Like, I mean, we're doing productions constantly.
That's
Every
awesome.
couple weeks there's something going on.
Well,
Um,
I'll look it up and I'll email you once I confirm it.
yeah, shoot me an email. That would be cool.
I gotta ask my wife because she manages that kind of world. I just like show up as like a set dad every once in a while.
Yeah,
So,
fun stuff.
awesome, man. So you've been an in-house guy for a good part of your career, which is kind of like a lot of times you see like
It's
almost
the
the
flip.
opposite of the, yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
people start at an agency, they get skill sets, they become specialists, they get to work on different clients, and then they get bored of doing the same thing and working on the same brand every day, and then they flip into, well, or they want more stability, more, kind of
Hmm.
what they would consider like a better quality of life, so they leave the
Right.
agency world and they go brand direct.
Yeah.
You are an interesting
Opposite.
hybrid that like kind of went the other direction. So, how has that transition been for you? Has it been easy? Has it
Yeah.
been hard? Like, tell me about that transition.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, honestly. Like this is I've heard this from people that, clients that we've worked with. I've heard it from other people in the industry that, are coming from in-house, coming to agency or have maybe worked in agencies for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and they're coming to work for me and then they're always shocked by this transition that I had. But I like, I struggle to align with it because I think I wouldn't see it any other way. Like I wouldn't want to be an in-house at this point. Um, because I mean, one, so I have ADHD, always had ADHD, and it's not like debilitating, but it
Yeah,
does change my behavior, right? I want to pattern switch. I get really excited about something and then kind of fizzle out on it, and then get excited about something else and fizzle out on it. And agency life is ideal for me because I can pattern switch constantly, and it's always fresh, always new. Like I mentioned before, I'm the type that when there's a fire, I want to go jump in it. It's like, well, there's always another fire. I can always find something to go jump in. There's always something going on because there's so many companies that we work with that nothing can be perfect all of the time, and there's always opportunities. So even if everything seems to be going well, there maybe we there's just something that we're not doing, or like a strategy we haven't employed, or some analysis we haven't run, or and I can just go dive into that, and like whatever I kind of have the momentum towards, I can go do. So I love this kind of life in general. Not that I didn't get some of that in the in-house roles, because I was benefited by having two great CEOs in those two in-house roles, that basically both of them gave me tons of leeway. There was every so often, obviously, there's something like, hey, we need to do this, or I need you to do this, or whatever. But it was also very much like, hey, here's the goal. You devise a plan to get there, and let's get there. And I had a lot of freedom of what that was. So I did still get a lot of that. I definitely don't envy the marketing leaders that are like forced from the top down to do things that they maybe don't align with or believe in. I think that's terrible. But I had the kind of sheer luck of not in being in that environment. But it still does get repetitive, right? SEO in its core format, like to refer to my experience with drop off, is kind of like doing the same things consistently for a long time at scale, and you will grow. And it's like, it's not what we did in month 4 wasn't dramatically different from what we did in month 6 or what we did in month 9. And it's so, it does sort of get into a rhythm where, like, hey, I know like Tuesday is my review day, and then on Wednesday is my social review, update day, and then on Friday and you get into this cycle, and that's just not for me. Like I am the anti-routine person. I like to, I have some routine in my home life, but when I get to work, like I thrive in chaos. I want the like calling off the hooks, random Slack messages while on a Zoom call, and like booking something with somebody on LinkedIn to go on their podcast, like all sorts of stuff. It's all over the place. And I thrive in that, and I enjoy that. So I couldn't imagine not being in an agency or similar agency business model where I get to work on all these things, like consulting and stuff like that is obviously kind of correlated. But yeah, I don't want the like laid back, predictable, same executive position that you might get at a in-house role. Even if somebody was going to give me more money or something, it's just not as fulfilling for me.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I've only ever worked at agencies, and I love it because, every day you wake up, you work on different problems. There was a period in my life where I was like 75% on Adobe, but that was cool because Adobe has like 10 billion different products, so
Yeah,
it's
there's so much
like
you could do still.
one day I'm talking to Photoshop, next day I'm talking to like the students division, next day I'm talking to like the B2B guys. So it was very like lots of,
Get still plenty of
different,
variety. Yeah.
plenty of variety. So I think a big trend that emerged in COVID with agency marketing is that, for a long time, like whenever, agencies would pitch, they'd be like, oh, here's all the things you need to do. Then the client would say, well, are you doing this stuff like to market your agency? And they'll be like, well, not really, because we spend all our time doing it for clients. So like, oh, okay, cool. I think COVID, because, you couldn't like do in-person pitches and there wasn't as many things happening in the real world, like agencies had to sit back and say, okay, like maybe we should like actually do the shit we're telling clients to do.
Hmm.
I wonder how much of what you prescribe to clients are you able to implement as an agency marketer?
Yeah. Really for us, the everything except for where it just doesn't overlap from a business model perspective. So we have lots of clients that are e-commerce, right? Not every e-commerce strategy works on a B2B lead-based business, right? But then, and the same thing kind of can be said for a local service company that does installations for appliances in somebody's home. Like some of that stuff overlaps, not all of it. There's going to be some differences in the way we handle stuff, even just warning the fact we're remote. But I'd say like the core functions are all overlapping, like huge proponents of email marketing, huge proponents of both social and search advertising. Advertising can be a tough industry just for this category in specific because one, everybody, like the playing floor is a little higher because everybody who's doing agency ads works in an agency, so they have marketing expertise, so they're generally better versus everybody who runs pool installation ads. Like some of those people are running it themselves and don't know what they're doing, so there's a little more variability in who you're competing against. Here you're pretty much only competing against like A and B players. You're not competing
Yeah.
against any D players. um, so advertising can be a little more challenging because of that, but it's still a great arena to play in for sure. And there's a lot of ways you can find opportunities for underserved audiences. But email, organic, huge proponents of organic. AI has become a huge opportunity category for a lot of businesses, like getting presence in LLMs and that sort of thing has become a big initiative for us over the last kind of 3 to 6 months. And that's a big thing that as an agency we're really prioritizing because I think it's the first time in 20 years that Google's lost market share of any significance, and I don't think that that's going to slow down. Now, whether or not who are the people with the crowns at the end of the day, where that's going to end up, we'll have to see. But regardless, even if Google remained on top, the hybrid between their AI mode, their AI overview, their Gemini, like these things are still going to follow the same playbooks that ChatGPT, Perplexity, all these others do. So being able to have AI systems discover and recommend you easily is going to matter regardless of who wins the whole AI race. And so that's something we're prioritizing a lot right now, both for clients and ourselves, because it will be maybe not the battle to win right now, although it is providing benefit right now. It's more of like, we want to cement a place in the next 24 months because I think fast forward 2 years, you think search and organic marketing, all that changed a lot in 2025. Like 26 and 27, like it's going to be totally different. There's so much development in 12 months um, that like most people couldn't have predicted. So, I'm not even going to try to pretend like I know where it's going, but I know it's going in a wild place, and it's going to be different. And as much as we can kind of get ahead on it now, the better. So pretty much every strategy that we use for clients in some form or another, we use for ourselves. The same branding team that works on clients worked on our brand. The same website team worked on our website. Same media team works on our media. It's all the way down. We're self-integrated, and wholeheartedly believe in everything that we do for clients. We're not like a cookie cutter agency, being full service by nature, and that we don't serve a specific niche. We don't just work on lawyers or just work on doctors or whatever. We do everything. If you need help, we're here for it. We have so much variety and so much data from all this variety that like we can just see patterns. I think better than the average agency, and we just have a very perfectionist mindset. We don't want to do like as good of SEO as those guys over there. Like we want to do the best. We want everybody else to look at us as the example. We don't want to do good enough ads to like get a decent ROAS. Like we want the best ROAS in this industry. Whatever industry it is, we want the best. So we're constantly pushing for that. And I don't pretend like we always get the best or we always are the best, but it's a effort of being the best. It's a goal of being the best. It's a consistent kind of, you know, hitting the metal and forging it into the shape that we're trying to make it. And that like pursuit of excellence is kind of like how we've come to form the services we offer, why we offer them. And so yeah, of course we believe in them ourselves and we use them ourselves because we've put this much of our kind of life into making what we do great. Why would we not also want to use it?
Love it. So how's it feel as a SEO guy, a guy that came up in the SEO space, that 60% of all searches don't end with a click now? Um, like, is SEO even worth doing?
Is it dying? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like, should you take a data driven approach, or should you just take maybe an editorial approach and like just create blogs that you actually want to write because they're interesting, not just because they're trying to game the system? Like, what's your current approach on SEO?
Yeah, so I don't want to hit you with an "it depends" because it's the worst thing to say in marketing, but I think there's a lot of things that you can do. So first of all, SEO is not dead. It's still like a huge market. The clicks or lack thereof is not overly concerning for me. And we've got tons of data to like, hey, impressions are up 80%, but clicks are down 12. Like what's going on? And we've had this conversation a million times to kind of talk about like how the strategy shifts, and what the goals and what the KPIs and the new outcomes are that we're prioritizing towards. This kind of bleeds into that AI topic, around like, well, if AI is taking some market share and it's not resulting in clicks, like how do we optimize for that and what do we do around that? And does it even matter? And why does it matter? Um, I'll summarize it into like there's a couple of ways that I view SEO, and there's none of them are really the way it used to be. So there's the one approach, which I think is what you were kind of alluding to, which is like, do you just write things that you think are interesting or creative or that people will enjoy reading, and it's not really to rank for a keyword or something like that, but it's more like a newsletter or something that somebody might subscribe to because they value it. I think that's a whole strategy in itself, sort of outside of SEO, but uses the basic same format, which is written word published on a website or whatever the case may
Or
be.
should that strategy be on a Substack or a LinkedIn newsletter or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of the above, right? I
Yeah.
think we have Saturday. We send every Saturday. We send a newsletter, and we call it the Digital Lab, and it's marketing strategies. It's stuff that we've discovered working on. It's client data. It's just a lot of stuff that we think that business owners would find value of, out of from a bunch of different stuff. Sometimes it's meta ads. The next week it's a best practice for a certain type of media. The next week it's analysis on AI or SEO or whatever. It's varied. We send that through Kit. Used to be called ConvertKit, but we send that through Kit as an email. Goes out to our whole list. It's like a 9,000 people or something. We also post that on our blog. So it goes live on our blog. We also post it as a LinkedIn newsletter the following Wednesday. So a few days later, it goes out on LinkedIn. We're working towards making podcast versions of each one. So we'll record like an audio, and then we'll have a video for it as well, which can then obviously be cut into short form clips and put on TikTok and YouTube short. So like I think the ecosystem for these things has always been like you can take one great piece of media and turn it into 50 great pieces of media. Like it's really not that complicated. It's more just the doing of it and the organization of it. I think every business should be doing all of the above. Um, Whether it's for SEO or not, I think just doing all of the above like is super important. Presence is more important than it has ever been. You want to, contribute to the noise. There's so much noise, and some of it is just ridiculously loud. I mean, there are creators, influencers, businesses, etc., that post on a social platform 5 times a day, 10 times a day. And it's like, if you're posting once a week, you're just a very tiny noise in this giant cafeteria of talking voices, right? So like nobody's going to hear what you have to say. But if you take up, a tenth of the room, odds are like somebody's going to hear you. I think that bodes even more true now with AI, because AI is actually listening to all of the noise, and it is analyzing all of the noise, and it finds the noisiest things and then shows them to people. And so whether it's social media, your website, your Substack, your LinkedIn, your whatever it is, you want to be as present as possible.
I
Um,
love.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good, man. So let's go into LLMs for a second, and
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
and AEO. So, I'm hearing a bunch of different things about how to optimize for AEO. For one, PR seems to be making a comeback because
It
like
is. Yeah.
getting listings and rankings and like valid third party, publications seem to be a good thing. I read the other day that YouTube Shorts are becoming kind of important to drive the Google Gemini results. I've heard some talk about like actually writing style, like
Mhm.
if you can partner with academics or academic institutions and write in an academic style, because all the AI models were trained on academic literature, they tend to like academically written articles. Those are a few that have popped up in interviews that I've done maybe in the last 3 months.
Mhm.
Curious if you have any other tips outside of those three.
For sure. Yeah. This is a big thing that we're working on. We just we had in August we exited a beta for a product that we made. And it's now, public and available, but we call it AIO, AI optimization. Same as GEO, AEO, SGE, all these acronyms. Nobody can decide. We landed on AIO. But it's a product that helps with AI optimization, and it uses a lot of these things that
Excuse me.
I'll get into. Bless you. Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
it explains. I'll explain a couple of the key points, but these are things that we put in this product and just do lots of testing now. I've like verified that these provide lift. Um, so a couple of things is semantic writing style. So short, punchy text will get picked up in AI better. And it's because it's funny. It's actually more because of money than it is about like that the content is actually better. So to just briefly kind of explain how LLMs work is they run on tokens, which is just a measurement of data. It's just an arbitrary thing that the AI platforms all agreed they were going to call them tokens, but it's a measurement of data and that's being taken up by a server. So, right, like every time you prompt ChatGPT, there's a server somewhere that's running a query and processing data and then spits out a solution. The more text you put in your prompt, the more tokens are required for the model to analyze it. And also, the bigger the answer it provides you, like for when you do deep research or any of these, and it gives you a really long answer, that also costs the platform more tokens because it just is more server time, right? So tokens, you could think like Chuck E. Cheese. It's like, hey, I gave you $1 and you gave me 4 tokens. Like tokens are just another word for money, right? In the data world. Well, um, the LLM platforms want to save money. They don't want to spend all of OpenAI's money or all of Google's money or whatever. They want to try to be economic when they can be, especially if you're using the free versions of like ChatGPT and these. They give you the lighter models and they aren't as deep and all of that. So what they'll do is when you ask it a question, it's going to try to find the correct answer, but it's going to try to do it in as few tokens as possible because it doesn't want it to cost OpenAI a ton of money to answer your question. So if it can find an answer which is shorter and more punchy, it costs it less tokens to read that answer. It also costs it less tokens to give you that answer. And it is
Mm.
a micro, I mean, we're talking, you know, 0.001 pennies to answer your prompt or whatever, right? Very, very small amount of money. But when you extrapolate it across millions and millions of requests, they save a lot of money by finding answers with less token count. So, one, all the content that our product creates and whatnot is built around low token counts. So, it's taking this into account to try to give good, succinct answers to questions that don't require a ton of tokens to read, which means they get picked up by these AI platforms more. That's a quick and easy thing that like anybody can do. It's just write as to the point as you can. Um, don't add in fluffy words. Don't write a paragraph if you could write a sentence. Don't write a three paragraphs. You could if you could make a 5 point bulleted list. Just always try to get into a process of succinctness. Um, so that's a big one, easy one. Another fun one that we actually just recently discovered is that there is that when you ask ChatGPT for information on something that's current, so you're like, what is the current state of the U.S. economy? It's going to quote a bunch of articles and things that it can find online that are current, and so it wants to find things that are new. So it could be like, hey, this was posted on December 15th. It was posted on Monday, and it's going to grab that because it's relevant and it's urgent. Even if something was posted on December 10th, it's going to grab the 15th one because it's more relevant, right? And it'll grab you a lot of options and whatnot. So there's a correlation between posting frequency, so how recent is the content that you're posting, because you might have the best answer to something, but if it's 6 months old and somebody answered the same question using the same words but they did it yesterday, they're going to show up just because it's more recent.
Wow.
um, and then also you can trick the platform. There's a statistical I forget exactly what it was. It was something like 22% of all results whenever you ask it for current stuff are going to either include a date within the last 7 days, or it's going to include the word 2026 or 2025 in the title. And so if you say like, what are the best SEO tactics for 2026, all the answers are going to be articles with 2026 in the title. So
Wow.
if you write best SEO tactics and that's it, not going to get as much present in AI as if you just slap the 2026 in there. So keeping that kind of current date, and it's even better if you say Q4 2025 or Q1 2026 or January 2020, like getting specific helps a lot. So relevance from a time period dramatically increases your presence in AIO as well. And you can update old content. It doesn't have to be something new. You could just go take something you posted 6 months ago, change it a little bit, update it to say 2026, repost it, and now it'll get picked up because it's relevant again. So
That's
those are
crazy.
two like super easy ones.
Yeah.
That is just like slightly change your writing style and you'll get a better pickup.
I
I could
love
probably give
that.
you a bunch more. I've been like super into this for the last 6 months and we've done a lot of work on this. So, but
I
it's super interesting and fun to find like that little hack that you can apply and instantly get the lift. It's awesome.
I
So
love that. Well, hey, we don't want to give away the farm. We want to give the marketers that might be watching a reason to reach out and have a conversation with you as well. But I think that's some good breadcrumbs for them to start with.
I try to give away
So,
as much as I can for free. I just don't want to waste
hey,
the
hey,
last
I love
few
it.
minutes.
I love it, man. I mean, I think adding value is an important part of the social contract these days in the B2B world. So I appreciate that sense of generosity. So, all right. We wouldn't be doing ourselves a service if we didn't talk about your leveraging a podcast for your marketing
Mhm.
needs as well. So, obviously we're talking on a podcast right now. I've been doing this podcast since 2019. This is the 230 something episode. I talk to CMOs and marketing leaders most business days of the week. I did 5 shows yesterday.
Wow, crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've come to the realization, like when I first started, I was like, oh, I'll do one a week, and then I got like way backed up, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll do one every business day, and then
Hmm.
I got backed up again, and now it's like, okay, if it's priority, I'll just schedule it as soon as I can. If it's
Yeah.
not a priority, it's March.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and look, I've got a lot of funnels, that are pointing people to the show now. So whether it's like expert websites like Quoted, where you can, put yourself out there as a guest expert, and when you start making the rounds and actually like applying to conferences as press, then you get on these lists, and then you get a shit ton of inbound from PR firms, which is fun.
Hmm. Hmm.
So like my CES dance card is getting gnarly already. And then you just got like the everyday inbound, like where people either see the show or I don't know, like Cision spiders me or something. And then I just get like the normal, like non-event related inbound pitches. And then you actually saw my ad on LinkedIn, which is like a
Yep.
new thing that I did. So I
Yep.
just like
Proof
shot
in
a
the
little
pudding.
video, threw it out there. But yeah, I mean, obviously you and I are talking because of that LinkedIn ad, but I also got, the chairman of Stagwell, the 5th largest agency in the world. I got the CMO of Dannon. I got the CMO of Prudential, all from that ad, and it only cost me $500.
Nice.
So, I want to talk a little bit about like, what is the podcast for you? Is it kind of what I do? Like, it's like, I just want to meet interesting people. Is it, it's a studio day and you can get a bunch of cool 30 and 60-second clips? Like, is it a little bit of all of the above? Like, tell me about, why'd you decide to launch the podcast and how is it helping propel your guys' funnel?
Yeah, I think, and you probably have a bit of this, but like when I do something um in the marketing world, I try to squeeze as much value out of it as possible. So, most of the stuff that I'm going to do, I'm going to find a way to get, 15 different valuable things out of it. So, one, running a podcast is a great way to just meet people, network with people, make connections in the industry that could provide valuable for you or for them later. And just sometimes you just make good friends and you find people that you align really well with, and or you hear new ideas that you hadn't thought about and you learn something. So I think it's meeting great people. Like I mentioned, I'm always on the journey of self-education, so it's always a great way to just hear perspectives and hear people's ideas. There is the PR benefit, right? So like the more things that have your name in it or your company's name in it or whatever it may be, those headlines are useful because you never know when just one random thing that you did is going to float into somebody's view. I don't know about you, but I have like LinkedIn posts that are 2 years old that I'll randomly get a comment on. And it's like, I put that fishing hook out so far ago. Like I don't even remember what this post was about. Um, or maybe I'm not even like doing the thing anymore that the post is about, but it's like those things, the more you put out there, the more you contribute to that noise I was talking about. I think just good things happen. Like the luck surface area concept, if you're familiar with like the whole Occam's razor thing, the more that you just kind of have things going on, and the more present you are, then your chance for that 0.01% luck event to happen goes up dramatically. So I'm a big believer in that. Um, but then, yeah, to your point, like more tactically, right? This can be repurposed in a lot of ways. It goes out on so many platforms. You can do it live, you can do recordings, you can send it in an email list, you can put it on your blog, you can post it on Spotify and Apple and Google and all these podcast networks. It can go up on a YouTube channel. You can make shorts. Like there's like a I could probably spend an hour riddling off all the things I could do with a 45-minute video, you know? And it's pretty ridiculous. And it's just one of those things that you get to be uniquely you get to express like some authentic version of yourself that doesn't always come across in written form or in more prepared formats. This is very ad hoc, so you kind of get the real you on things like this. And people like that, even if somebody's been following somebody for a year and they like all their posts and they like all their articles and they like whatever, they want to see that video because they discover something about that person that they might not have known, right? To use another marketing person, for example, like Seth Godin, who's This Is Marketing, Purple Cow, like some of
Yeah,
these like
Purple
very famous
Cow.
marketing
Yeah, I do
books. Yeah,
a lot of big ones. Yep.
yeah. I mean, he's got some of the most beloved marketing books in the world, and some people don't know what he looks like. Some people don't know what his voice sounds like. Some people don't know his life story. Some people don't know how he talks or how he thinks or what he believes in outside of just what's in the confines of those pages. And so when you see him go on a podcast, you kind of there's a level of relationship that forms, kind of a parasocial relationship, but there's a level of kind of understanding and authenticity that forms that just can't happen in other formats. And so, I think it's incredibly valuable for everybody, marketing or otherwise. I think it's incredibly valuable if you're trying to build a name for your business or for yourself, that you have this presence, whether as a host, which obviously we both are, but I think also as a guest. Honestly, in this like kind of AI development stuff, being a guest is almost more impactful now than it's ever been, because
Mm,
you get so many headlines and so many diverse places, and the technicals of it, you get like backlinks and all this kind of fun stuff that happens. But it just, the level of mentions and the level of noise and the level of awareness goes up more being a guest now than it ever has. And it's just a big thing. It's a flywheel. So it's got so many exponential benefits to that 45 minutes of time that you dedicate, that it's hard to find that many avenues that you could spend an hour of your time and have more impact. It just has so much impact that you can't even really quantify, but it happens, and you kind of have to just operate on faith and know that it's happening. But as somebody who's done this a long time, and I'm sure you would agree, like over time you see that, and you see that kind of exponential benefit. But it's hard to see at first. It's hard to see when you go on one podcast as a guest, or you host a podcast and you do 3 episodes. Like it's hard to feel that momentum, but it's happening whether you see it or not.
yeah, it's a great point. For me, it's not only like very, like you were talking about that idea of putting lines in the water, for the future, right? Like,
Hmm.
one of my favorite things these days is just going onto Spotify and seeing kind of like the exponential view and subscriber growth. Like for a long time, it's just like, oh man, is this even worth it?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then there's a tipping point, and I don't know if it's a Spotify algorithm thing, if they're just like, okay, like this guy's really committed, we're going to give him a little bit more juice or whatever. But there is you're building for the long term. You're not building for the
Hmm.
short term, and every episode is
Yep.
a out there in the ether, kind of doing its thing. It's I heard somebody, maybe it was the guy that runs that agency in Australia, King Kong Surisabi or something like that. But he was like every podcast, every piece of content, especially evergreen content, it's like a version of yourself out there working while you're asleep or while you're
Yep.
hanging out with your kids or taking the wife
100%
to
support
dinner or
that.
something like that. So love it. Cool. Looking ahead, what skills do you think this generation of marketers need to master to stay relevant?
um I think there's an importance for adaptability. If we want to go, it's not even really necessarily a skill, it's more so a way of being. But I think like you need to be adaptable, more than anything. You can develop skills, you can develop, like, I can be a better writer, or I can be a more creative thinker, I can do design or whatever, right? And there's constant argument about, is AI going to take this or do that or what, yada. I wouldn't worry so much about that. I would just focus about, like, I'm going to get good at something, and if that something starts to not be as valuable, I will get good at the next thing, and if that thing starts to be less, I will get good at. And being adaptable is what kind of changes a lot of behavior. Like, I came in to this industry with no experience, super junior, and was just like, I'm going to figure out how to get good at stuff. And then I got pretty good at stuff. And then I went a little further and I got really good at some stuff. And then now like I understand all of these things. I'm not personally doing that much on an SEO perspective anymore, even though I built that huge growth for drop off in that time. It's more now my skill set and what I'm working on is empowering and training departments and team members and leaders who they execute these strategies. They do this work. So, and that's a totally different skill. And I had to kind of adapt from being the doer to being the thinker and the leader and the trainer. And I think, my now recently, these last 6 months, now it's like, okay, now how do I do to AI what I did to SEO? And like I've got to figure this new thing, and that's going to change again. Next it's going to be something else, and then it'll be something else, and it'll be something else. And I'll look at myself when I'm 50 years old, and I'm not going to be doing the things that I'm doing right now, and that's okay. And I don't think somebody should go into this career or be in this career trying to level up or whatever, with the perspective of like, well, I'm just going to be the best copywriter this world has ever seen, and I'm going to do copywriting for the next 50 years. I'm going to be awesome. I think that's the wrong way to think about it. I think you should think about it more like, I'm going to be the best value add I can be from the perspective of business growth, and I will take whatever shape that forms, right? To steal an unrelated but somewhat correlated quote, the from Bruce Lee, be like water, right? I think is very
Mm,
valid here. You don't want to take a shape and just be like, I'm going to be the best at this thing. You want to be able to change and flow with how this industry shifts over time, and that's arguably, I think, more valuable than any individual skill that somebody could work on. Is just be a student of the industry and constantly look for like, what is that thing that most people don't get, but I can figure out, and I can figure out how to be better than most people at this. And then when the industry catches up, what is the new thing that most people don't get, but I can be the best at this, or I can get really great at this, and just keep going. Um, Success will find you if you do that.
I love it. Where do you want people to go to learn more about 2Point or to connect with you directly?
Yeah, website's pretty straightforward. 2Point T, we spell it with a two. 2pointagency.com. So you can check us out there if you wanna look at us there. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Haydn Fleming. My name's spelled a little weird, but you can see it on screen here. I don't have an E. So you can find me there. If you Google me, I'm like number one everything because nobody spells their name like me. Easy to find. Um, and so, yeah, those two places, you'll find something that hopefully gives you value. And I'd love to meet anybody that sees this. If you guys want to chat, I said before, I'm super pro free value. I'll hop on a call. I'll, talk about any problem you have. I'll give you any advice, etc. I just love to help people succeed. So I would love to
Awesome.
meet some of the people watching.
Awesome, man. Well, that was a great spot. I appreciate you coming on. For those of you who are following at home, if this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you are listening to the show, an honest review is how we find a larger audience organically. And if there's a growth marketer out there or somebody looking to make the transition rather from brand over to the agency world, or somebody who you think could use some of these newly uncovered AEO tactics. You've heard them the first time here today. These are hot off the press. And everybody is really excited and wanting to learn how to optimize for these bots. So don't forget to share the show. And with that, Haydn, I will thank you for coming on, man. Let's stay in touch.